Attention. Due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 42 of the Civil Gore podcast. 42, the answer to the meaning of life, the universe, and everything.
Yes, and if you add 4 and 2 together, you get 6, which means nothing. So, but yeah, I usually see that with that start of with that joke, that you're going to see the caliber of show you're getting tonight.
Yeah,
apparently
they can't all be winners.
No,
folks.
they can't.
No, we do have a really good episode this week. I'm excited about because I really love this movie. That is, of course, Terror Train from 1980, starring Miss Jamie Lee Curtis, and we also have a pretty decent dismemberment this week as well. Have some pretty solid releases on there, some that I'm interested in.
Yeah, no, and there's definitely actually looking not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but actually the next couple of months is a lot of good stuff dismemberment wise. So we're in for some treats.
I peeked ahead to next week and I was like, wow, there's some really, really cool stuff coming down the pipe. So I hope you have some of that Christmas money saved over. Your wallet's going to take a beating the first half of this year.
Yeah, they're not being really friendly wallet-wise, I'll tell you that.
Okay, well, let's get right into it with our first chop. So, Brian, of course, the Backlog project is alive and well, and I have been hitting it hard. And the reason I've been hitting it hard is because of what we just talked about. There's so many good releases coming down the pipe. I don't want to go buying all this stuff until I'm finished because I'm not adding to my backlog. I'm trying to finish it. That was one of my resolutions. So I have been really, really almost machine-like in my intensity, I would have to say.
Yeah, and just looking ahead, I'll let you say it, but it looked like your wheel spun the lucky selection that you've been waiting for.
Yeah, this was a good, very, very good week. And the way I do it, I don't actually list everything I've done with my backlog project because I have each disc divided into film, commentary, and extras. And when the roulette wheel stops, I do the movie first, and then I spin a new movie. And if I've already seen the movie, then I go to the commentary. And if I've already done the movie and the commentary, I go to the features. So at any given time, whatever the wheel lands on, I'm doing one of those 3 items.
Oh, and by the way, Tim is looking for an intern to manage this thing.
It gets very complicated.
Yeah.
But this week was a good selection. The first one up was Child's Play 2, which I had really not seen in forever, but it's a pretty solid sequel. It's pretty good. The kid in it's pretty decent for a child actor, I guess you would say. I mean, he's not great, but he's he adds a lot to the movie because he's curiously not that afraid of Chucky as I would expect. So it's kind of funny to watch him, but Chucky's fantastic in this one. You can really tell his personality. They just went all the way with it. So I really enjoyed that one.
Well, they had to step it up for the sequel,
Yeah. But it was interesting to me going that far back because again, I haven't seen that sequel in so long that Chucky's personality and everything was so well crafted that early in the franchise, even in the first movie to an extent.
Yeah, I can't wait to go do that. I'm probably gonna save it because I know we're gonna. I assume he's probably the number one. Big spoiler alert here. We've only talked about it 50 times. I think he'll be the first topic for this year's summer slaycation. So I'm kind of saving it for that to watch that whole box set. So I'm really excited for it.
To me, like Bride of Chucky and those are kind of fall more comedy than horror in a way, but Chucky's remained a constant throughout. Like his brutality and stuff has kind of remained the same from movie to movie, even as the rest of the movie around it kind of shifted back and forth. Then of course in the last 2 films they got a little bit more to the horror side of it. So
yeah. Well, he may have gone to the comedy side, but obviously he didn't. He was still having trouble at those open mic nights because I don't think he ever made it to the.
No. He never made it to the comedy.
Yeah,
that might be a sequel sketch at some point.
Yeah, maybe he finally makes it in this year. We'll have to see.
The next one I had I was so excited for this. So excited. That was the first movie in the Paul Naschy collection that I got for Christmas, and it's called Horror Rises from the Tomb. Now, I don't know who Paul Naschy is. I had no clue going into this box set who he really was. And if that makes me a bad horror fan, so what? I mean, it's 70s Spanish horror. I can't know everything.
He's just that bearded guy that's on the cover, right?
It's kind of obscure little niche, but man, I loved this movie. It was fantastic. It reminded me of a Hammer film. First off, it's very Hammer-esque. I'm talking about the crazy, over dramatic organ music and the location shots and the gothicness of the whole thing. It totally reminds you of a Hammer production.
It kind of looks just like the box art. Even reminds me of it. It looks like like that really pseudo comic-y book look or something.
Yeah. The story was really entertaining, I thought. I mean, it was a very well paced movie. I was never bored. It's about some people go to this mansion, I guess you would call it, and there's this I'm not looking at names, I'm not pulling up on IMDb right now, so I'm kind of going by memory, but there was this old back in the witch trial days or whatever, there was this evil guy that was hanged, and his wife or his mistress or lover or whatever, she was executed, and he vowed he would come back, and so he's kind of a vampire in a sense. He's like an undead guy, but he basically comes back, or they unearth him, and he's actually played by Paul Naschy, who is like kind of resembles like a guy that works at your comic book store. He's kind of this. It's so weird. But he's very charismatic. All the 3 Bs are there, some more than others.
The topic kind of sound like those Vault of Horror and Tales from the Crypt comics, the way you were saying it with the revenge element and.
It very much is. It's very much like one of those segments extended to a feature film.
Oh, nice.
But
you can't go wrong with that. I mean, you can't go wrong with that formula. It's always well done. So,
like super beautiful women and crazy gore effects. Everything you could love about those old 70s films is in this. And I hope the rest of the collection is as good as this one, because I really, really loved this movie. So you definitely have to check that one out, Brian. And I would say it's definitely worth picking up the box.
Yeah, no, I still have them on I had them on my wish list. I mean, granted, if they're still there, my birthday's in May. I'll make sure they're to the forefront up there. But if not, I may end up getting them. But then, because I mean, I buy enough stuff on Amazon. I'm always getting Amazon points and so it's like if I go, I mean, what is it like? I think it's like $40-something.
Yeah, it's like $40.
They could have sales. You never know. So I'll keep an eye open for sales on it and whatnot. And I still getting that discount from from my move. I remember I was telling you I keep getting this discount. I forgot it's because with a change of address came with some kind of promotion. So I get like all these. I get like I think it's like not 10%. I think it's some amount I get off of all my Amazon orders lately. So I don't know how long this goes, but I think it's probably going to end very shortly. But so I don't know. I'll get it while I can, I guess.
And then the old roulette wheel said, you know what? It's time for some classic Universal horror. So it spun 3 in a row.
Wow, yeah, and totally did.
The first one up was The Mummy from, the 30s, whatever. The original Mummy.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one, this one's such a slow-paced film. Oh my gosh, I've seen it many times before, but it's such a slow-paced movie. Even for a Universal movie, it's pretty slow-paced. And it's only like an hour and change. It's not even a 90-minute movie.
Oh my god!
And it still feels interminable. I mean, great film. Obviously, it's a classic, but to me, The Mummy will always be my least favorite of the Universal classic monsters. I'm sorry. I don't find him scary. I don't find it even all that interesting, to be honest. The next one up was 2 from the Frankenstein set. The first one up was Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. And this one was obviously a cash-in on the, by this point, the Universal films were, big hits, especially among the younger crowds who came to see the monsters fighting and that kind of stuff. So you have a kind of a contrived plot to get Frankenstein and the Wolfman in the same location. And, of course, Lon Chaney Jr. reprises his Wolfman role, which was great. And Bela Lugosi... it plays Frankenstein, which was cool.
And it's sad that they don't think they're going to be able to get this back like they wanted to. The resurgence of this whole universe with the Mummy.
Yeah, because I mean, how cool would that be? But too bad. This one, it's okay. It's all the Universal classics have their charm in some way or the other. I wouldn't call this one of the best of the franchise by any means, due to the kind of contrived plot. The next one I found a little more entertaining, and that is because you get to see Lon Chaney Jr. and Boris Karloff on screen together.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was kind of neat. Boris Karloff plays not Frankenstein in House of Frankenstein, which is the movie I'm talking about. He actually plays the mad scientist, and he does a great mad scientist.
Cool.
And Lon Chaney Jr. Reprises his Wolfman role. It does have some loose continuity with the Frankenstein meets the Wolfman film, so they were trying to keep the stories somewhat connected, which is kind of cool. And this will be followed by House of Dracula, which is in apparently every Universal set.
That too, along with the Abbott and Costello, apparently, right?
Yeah, because House of Dracula is even in my Frankenstein set, I believe. So
that's weird.
I don't know how that.
How
that works.
It's. I guess they wanted to make sure you got value, but I would have much rather knock a couple of bucks off and stop putting the same movie in every. It's like.
Well, plus you would think they would want to maximize their sales by keeping certain films exclusive to certain sets,
right?
So you buy all of them. So I don't. It's kind of a weird. I can understand from a monster standpoint. This has Dracula; it needs to be in the Dracula set,
right.
And it also has Frankenstein, so it needs to be in the Frankenstein set. Okay, I can kind of see that, but I think they missed some business opportunity there.
Yeah, or they could have done like the crossover set, like with the something. But
and finally, the last one I watched, which just wrapped up today, was Phantasm III: Lord of the Dead.
Not to be confused with Phantasm III: Lord of the Dance, which was done separately.
What was that called? What was that? Oh God, that was a big thing back then. Like the Irish dancing.
It was
thing.
Lord of the Dance. Remember, it was like Lord of the Dance.
It was Lord of the Dance.
It was Lord of the Dance. Yeah, that was. Yeah, but that was everywhere for about 5 minutes.
Yeah. But I mean, all the theme parks even had a Lord of the Dance routine. It seemed like.
Yeah, and I just remember the one. A little off topic, but remember that seeing that movie 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite lines in that is David Krumholtz. You've seen a million things. He was Wednesday Addams' boyfriend in the Addams Family movie, and second one, I guess. And he just walks up and he's trying to impress the girl at the party, and he walks up and he goes, "Lord of the Dance," and he just it's like this weird dance maneuver, and she walks away.
Oh God.
So that's Sorry, I had to include that. You guys all had to suffer.
Now I can't get the image out of my mind of the tall man just doing up there.
Oh, Lord of the Dance, yeah.
High step.
Well, that's another Kickstarter,
Yeah. But, oh, man. As much as I enjoyed Phantasm 2, I think Phantasm 3 is even better. In fact, I went and looked at a ranking of the Phantasm films, and more than one site had Phantasm 2 as the worst of the franchise.
Really?
And I was like, if that's the worst, and I loved it so much, this has to be a super solid franchise. Phantasm 3 is basically another road trip movie. You got Reggie going out, fighting the tall man. They brought back the original Mike, which was cool. Now he's grown up, obviously, when this was made. And they introduced these super, super cool characters. You have this African-American lady. I think her name's Rocky or something like that. And she's like just a badass fighter. You've got this kid who's like a badass, like a little kid. And the characters are just super interesting. I don't know that I ever saw this one. This one may have been one I missed because I did not remember anything about it.
Yeah, I'm very sketchy on what I've seen out of the Phantasm series. It's one of those series, you sometimes don't remember what you see out of it.
Yeah, I remember scenes from certain ones, but maybe I didn't watch the whole thing, or I don't know what happened. But man, this one's fantastic. It's got a good sense of humor. It's just another. You know what? I was thinking about when I was going to talk about this. The thing I love about the Phantasm series is I always love when a creator, like a director or a writer or whatever, basically puts out this kind of batshit crazy idea, and they just say, this is how it's going to be. You can either get on the train or get off the train. They don't make any concessions to tropes or what's mainstream, or they just put out their vision and that's it. And that's kind of how Phantasm is.
Yeah, and I have to say, on a side note, excellent, whether you did it intentionally or not, excellent way to stay in the theme of tonight's episode with train and concession and, I like that. See, Tim is so good at podcasting now. He just subconsciously can just wield these words to be perfect in his description.
How did you notice that? Well, anyway, that was totally intentional, by the way.
Of course it was, yeah.
Yeah, so because the movie makes no sense. You have this tall man running around that's kind of an alien guy, and he can make zombies, and there's floating balls floating around that kill people, and nothing about this franchise makes any sense whatsoever, and somehow it works, and I loved it. Phantasm 3, awesome. Cannot wait to see Phantasm 4, which was ranked even higher.
Wow.
So, yeah, we'll see. Now, I don't know how Ravager did, because the articles I read were pre-Ravager. A lot of these came out right before that came out. So we'll see how that one falls into the pantheon. But I can't wait to cover this one on a future summer slaycation, because it's a great series.
And I was gonna wait till that, but now I might have to jump into this early because you got me all like wanting to see it. So
yeah, highly recommended. Yep. All right, all you, Brian. What you got?
Yeah, so I didn't come even close to as much as Tim did. Yeah, well, in many ways. Sorry, now I'm choking, cracking me up. Okay, so yeah, I only ended up watching a couple things. One was just because it was on cable, and I always like watch. I mean, I like anything with sharks in it and stuff. And so Open Water was on, and it kind of reminded me of though, you know, it definitely fit into this certain, you know, a lot of people like. You know, like they like certain types of horror, and this one I kind of dubbed it myself, like those real life forgotten films, which is I call it, where it's like, you know, someone like is doing just a normal thing and they're left behind, or they're, you know, like that movie Frozen that Adam Green did, not to be confused with the Disney version, because you could really get a shock if you grab the wrong title off the shelf. But, you know, where that was the one, of course, where they got left on a ski lift, and it's like you wonder, and you're just like, oh, God, why didn't these people, you know, just do this? Or I can't believe this. But, you know, you watch this, and to me, those are sometimes the more terrifying types of horror films, because you could see how that could actually happen. And now, of course, that was loosely based on an actual story, which I did while I was watching it. Actually, Julie and I were like looking up the real story to see how close it was. And it was, you know, other than the basic element of it, it was, you know, there was a lot of different things that like went into the true story. And, you know, obviously they had to play it cinematically to make it more appealing. So, you know, it was a little more dramatic at different scenes. And apparently in the real story, they weren't even, no one realized they were gone for 2 days. Even, it wasn't so much that, and it was funny, in the movie it seems like they discover it as they get back, like the next morning. But here it's like, I guess it wasn't until they were out on their like second charter since the original couple got lost, and they found their diving weights, I guess, at the bottom, and they thought they just got lucky that some other tour group left it there. So, oh, man. Yeah, it was really interesting, and there was a lot more into the story that I didn't realize, where at one point they thought it was a murder-suicide. At one point they thought it was they faked their own death, the couple. So, I mean, it got really crazy, which obviously would not play out right for the type of movie they were trying to go for. And so I'm kind of glad they just did it the way they did, because it still made it for a really just entertaining and kind of frightening movie. Because, and funny, Julie was telling me, she goes, after about a half hour, I realized we'd be dead already, but I wouldn't tell you that. Because she knows how she would be telling me that we'd be okay still, and I'd be like,
"See, I don't believe that. I think Julie would do some kind of MacGyver move." And,
well, that's what I said.
She would create some kind of contraption and have some brilliant plan to get you out of there.
Well, that's what I said. I said you'd be smart enough by 20 minutes in to figure it out. All right, we got to start swimming one way or the other. You know, and it was funny, since I saw that movie, we had done, you know, I did one very basic snorkeling type of thing once, and then there was another time where Julie and I actually, on our Hawaii trip, we went snorkeling in the Malakini crater, and it was funny. It was like I was sitting there and I was like, wow, you know what? Imagine this was like open water, but I'm realizing, like, I'm calming myself down, because I'm like, okay, a worst case scenario, literally there's a giant island / crater, there's land I could see and walk up out on. So that kind of calmed me down. However, I always did say, if I ever do go true skiing, like we went snowboarding last year, and I said, as soon as that thing starts to, even the sun starts to remotely set, we're leaving. Because
you're not gonna get trapped.
Yeah, I am not gonna get trapped on some kind of ski lift with wolves. But yeah. So those type of movies, I wish they'd make more of those, because those are things that truly have like a like a an impact on me in terms of, and it's like and it's funny because as soon as I watch these things, I'm already like planning like, okay, if I'm ever gonna do this kind of activity, I'm making sure I have a cell phone. I tell everybody where I am if I don't check in by this time. So it's kind of those kind of movies I like a lot. I wish there was a lot more of them, and I'm sure I'm missing some that are out there right now.
So you wish more people would die in horrible stranded accidents so that they could make cool movies.
Just cinematically though, they could come up with it. You could be original. Like I don't think people actually. I don't think Adam's Green was based on something real. Hope not. But
oh gosh,
there was actually another one. It's definitely not a true story either. But it's just it kind of reminds me of a little bit. It's called Altitude. You ever see that, where this group of friends are trapped in a plane and it just keeps accelerating, ascending upwards. Yeah, it's kind of, it has a little weird twist to it in the end, but it's one that you should check out. It's pretty good too. Yeah, so that was what I watched, and then I guess I did watch something else. I was going to put this after, but I might as well go into this now. That Friday the 13th Part 3 mini doc was released Saturday night on the Friday the 13th network. Well, we'll post a link to this because it's a great YouTube channel where they have a monthly show, and they do a 13 on 13 where they go through all different things of Friday the 13th, the franchise, the video games, collectibles.
Now, I did have a question. I had a question about this one. So you've seen the doc, I assume?
Yes.
And you've seen the Crystal Lake Memories documentary. So is there anything that this doc adds to the Part 3 that the Crystal Lake Memories did not have?
Well, yeah. It's Richard Brooker centric because it's a memoriam doc. So it really focuses on. I mean, it goes through first like a little bit of. It has a little bit of everything. It's really short. It's like 36 minutes. And the main thing they do, but they try and like make it like kind of as like a memoriam to him. So there's a lot of stuff they talk about him. They go through a couple of basic stuff about how they how they went to film it in 3D and all the different things. They go to the little factoids of how people try to like always go visit and sneak into the actual filming location and stuff. But like the main point of this documentary was basically to honor Richard Brooker who died. And of course he played Jason, and it was just kind of funny to see all the people tell stories about little stories about him and stuff. So I don't want to go into too much because to take anything away, otherwise So, but it's really short. I think it's like I literally think it's like 37 minutes. It's good. It's actually hosted by Paul Kratka, which played Paul, I guess. Right? Was it Paul? Or no? What? Well, the guy that's eyeball gets shot out. I forgot his real name. I know it's Paul Kratka.
Eyeball guy.
Yeah, eyeball guy. I know his real name is Paul Kratka, but I can't remember his. I don't remember his character name. It could be Paul also, but yeah. So he actually narrates it. So it's and there's a lot of like clips of other Friday the 13th people recognize. Like Shelley makes an appearance, or Larry Zerner, of course. So it's you get a little bits of interviews. It's definitely not to the the true documentary like way that the Crystal Lake Memories, which by far I cannot remember. That's got to be one of the best documentaries ever made on a film series.
I still haven't sat down to watch that.
Yeah, and I mean I've seen it twice, all like 8+ hours twice. I mean I haven't watched it in one sitting, obviously, but you break it up and it's great. And they break the documentary is broken up by movies anyway, so it's really easy to just watch like a couple a night. If you want, but but definitely recommend this, and definitely recommend this YouTube page because it's fantastic. The guy does a great job on this, and we'll definitely have to. I just want to give him a shout out, and so we'll post the link on that. So and it's free, so it's great. How you get? I mean, a 37-minute documentary on Friday the 13th, and for free. How you argue with that?
No, can't be argued. Well, Speaking of Friday the 13th, so our Ghostradamus predictions, which we did last week. All of a sudden, all of them started coming true because we're that awesome. Now, it is worth pointing out, Brian, that we did not make these predictions last week. These predictions we made were made back before Christmas because we had originally planned to do those like way back before the holidays, and we ended up pushing that episode out.
Right.
So what you were hearing, our predictions, even though we recorded it after the holidays, those predictions themselves were written down and were in print long before all this news broke. So,
and in fact, remember we did record it actually. And then, but that was when you got the emergency call from work. We had to actually redo some of that episode.
Oh yeah, that was the
so
famous
we actually
lost
have
episode.
yeah. So we actually have proof. We actually have it, the original recording.
Audio
if nobody
proof
believes us, yes,
with timestamps.
yes.
But anyway, so yeah, we had a bunch of news hit. Now, obviously, the I guess the more shaky of the news was the speculation that the Friday the 13th reboot or sequel or whatever might be coming out by Blumhouse and might be announced soon, because Blumhouse had talked about wanting to resurrect the franchise, and then they had also mentioned that they were locking in a Friday the 13th release date for one of their films, which they did not specify. So the idea was, put two and two together, maybe there's this actual Friday the 13th film in the works that's going to come out. Now, since then, there has been some back and forth, and a lot of people say, wait a minute, Friday the 13th is a normal horror release date anyway.
Yeah.
Let's don't jump the gun. We still have legal issues.
Oh my God, yeah, you got to read that. It gives you a headache to try and figure out the who owns what.
Yeah, the legal issues for that franchise are just crazy right now. So that one I would say is the one to take with the most grain of salt.
Right.
But
yeah, and I mean, shout out to Paul too, who sent me that article because he was the one that sent me that one about the Friday the 13th release date, and it was great because I had seen the first part of that about how Blumhouse, the guy was Jason, right?
Jason.
Yeah, he quoted by saying, "Oh, I'd love to do a Friday the 13th." So, you know how the internet is; they pick up things and put them all together.
But we're still saying it's going to be released.
Yes, my prediction. Well, technically, if you go further into that article, it does say that supposedly the decision to see if Victor Miller owns the rights to it is supposed to be done some point in the summer. So my summer prediction, I did say by the summer. So the summer basically ends what, September 21st is the official end of summer. So
That's right.
So I have till September 21st. Yes, to be proven wrong or right.
You got plenty of time.
Yeah.
And then one of my predictions was that we would see a resurgence of horror anthologies.
Yep.
And Hulu has ordered a new horror anthology.
There you go.
There you go.
Boom, that easy.
Boom, that is. That's how it is. We hit the easy button. And then Brian let me know about this one. We had talked about, I can't remember if it was you or me, Brian, had talked about a horror franchise coming to TV.
I think it was a little both of us. We kind of, like I had said, like an 80s thing, and then you said about a TV. Yeah, so we kind of both had variations on this, and obviously you put the power of Tim and I together, and you get the exact prediction correct.
Yeah, we create our own reality, and that is a Critters TV series.
Yep.
Which Brian had on the brain because he got me a Critters for Christmas, so he knew this was coming.
See, so go look at that. That there's like that, like cemented it. That was kind of like my secret prediction to kind of give you a hint of what was coming.
And then, just as an aside, I saw there was a new Hellraiser coming out on video.
Yeah, another one.
So there's another franchise. Now, granted, that one's a little okay. That's kind of stretching a little bit
because it never really went away.
They never went away. They've been coming out almost semi-regularly direct to video. So, but man, whenever we do that franchise, that's gonna you're going to have to give us some prep time for that one. Jeez.
Wow. I don't know.
How many movies now? 10? At least 10.
And I already started to early prep on to see how I'm going to obtain these because obviously, I don't want to watch them now if I see them because then I'll have to rewatch them as it gets closer to whenever we do this. So I'm I see a lot of 1, 2, and 3 box sets available. But I don't think there's a definitive collection. We can get all of them yet.
Well, at one time, Netflix had all of them, just about.
Right. That's what I'm hoping they'll come back with that, or maybe Shudder will, or something. Or, oops, sorry, there's a hiccup there. See, that's a good beer right there for you. Leaf Pile Ale by Greenport Pumpkin Ale. See, I'm still stretching this pumpkin thing. But
well, I've actually got a Mad Elf Christmas ale.
Those are fantastic. Oh, I love that Mad Elf. That's a great brewery, Trogs.
You reminded me I need to open that up right now.
Yeah. So apology for my hiccup. So the Hellraiser series that's going to be a doozy to try and get a hold of everything. Virgin had a complete set of this. So I'm not sure how we're going to handle this one.
See, I had not opened my beer to this point because my wife had promised me there was going to be coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And now I feel like Mariah Carey on New Year's Eve. I was told there would be coffee, but I guess I'm just going to have to drink beer with you peasant people. You normal people.
I know. Look at you.
I'm becoming a
You
diva
get one
with
prediction
my
right,
Civil
and then
War.
now you're demanding things be brought to you.
I was told there would be coffee.
That's a good trade-off.
This beer. Oh. Okay, so that was our first chop. So we did awesome. Pat ourselves on the
Good
back.
job, Tim.
Good job, Brian. All right, let's get right into our dismemberment.
Wait, no, please, God. No, don't cut off my...
That dismemberment sound effect is so long that I have to leave gotta give it some room to breathe.
Yeah, but it's a great sound effect.
Great sound. I love it. And I don't want to chop it. I don't want to shorten it.
We can't.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So the first one up, these are the Blu-ray releases for January 23rd, 2018. And the first one up is a Dario Argento title, opera from 1987. Now this one's interesting in that this was one of the first, maybe the first Italian horror film I ever watched, because I remember this one I first watched when I was just getting into DVD. This would be 98, I believe. Was the DVD players really 97, 98 when they really started coming on the market?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, just about.
And so that's when I had bought my rudimentary home theater system on my scraped together college budget, just scraping every nickel and dime to put this thing together. And Opera was one of those titles that I believe I rented. I don't think I bought it. I don't think I've ever owned it. But I remember that was when I was really, really getting into horror movies big time in my college, my what I call my college horror years. So, but this one, I don't remember much about it. Honestly, I haven't seen it in a long time. But it is considered a classic. So I'm probably going to pick it up at some point.
That's funny that we both, obviously, I guess it's not so surprising that like horror DVDs were close. Because actually I bought 4 DVDs that when I first got my DVD player. And one of the first ones was Psycho. So it was kind of exciting to have that on DVD.
Although, do you know what my first DVD was?
Which one?
As Good as It Gets.
Wow.
With Helen Hunt and Jack Nicholson.
Interesting. I think you know what's funny? I'm actually forgetting the other ones next to. I remember Psycho was definitely one, and Can't Hardly Wait I think was one of them, and I can't remember the other 2 right now.
See, we're ruining everybody's ideas of us. Our first DVDs were rom-coms.
Yeah, well,
But man, As Good as It Gets. Wow, what a great movie.
Yeah, that's a great movie. Yeah.
It's a fantastic movie. Okay.
And when you get excited when you have a new format like a DVD, I remember I was like, it was the fact that you could buy a high quality. Because remember, laser discs were expensive when you would buy them.
I never had a laser disc.
DVDs were ridiculously cheap in comparison in terms of getting a brand new movie. And remember they were coming out price to sale when videos at the time, remember they first would come out for rental only for a while, and it wasn't
$80.
Yeah, every movie was not purchasable for in terms of a normal budget. So it was kind of interesting when DVDs came out. It was great. Like every movie that was released, pretty much you could just walk in there and pick it up, and it's like it cost you like anywhere from $15 to $25 at the time. I mean, obviously some got more expensive, but most of the time they were between 15 to 25 was the average.
Yeah, well, true story. I bought As Good as It Gets and Twister before I ever owned a DVD player.
Oh, really? Just to have?
Just to have, because I knew I would have one at some point, and I saw them in Circuit City, and I was like, oh, it'd be just so cool to own this movie. I guess I had a Helen Hunt thing at the time.
Ah, yeah, that's true. Oh, that's true. That must have been the real. Now we get to the bottom of it. Tim's laying on the couch in the psychologist's office. Yes. So, what were your first 2 DVDs? I think you have a Helen Hunt association. Yeah.
I just realized that. Thanks for the psychoanalysis. I don't know what that means. Anyway, so back to Opera.
Yeah.
It stars. Let me see how many of these Italian names I can murder. Christina Marsalach,
that's not bad.
Ian Charlson, and I like this guy's name, Urbano Barberini.
Yeah.
Hey!
I know, isn't that the guy from, isn't that what John Travolta played on Welcome Back?
So I was like, is that Welcome Back, Connor? Oh my gosh. Okay, so the synopsis is, a young operata, which I love that. That's a cool word. I've never heard that.
Yeah,
operata. A young operata is stalked by a deranged fan bent on killing the people associated with her to claim her for himself.
Very basic plot, simple.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 2K remaster with color correction. They did point that out. There's a lot of color correction. That's kind of cool. New interview and a new 5.1 audio mix. So that would be worth picking up for sure, especially if you had an older DVD release.
Yeah. I mean, that's those. Wow, it's like, for some reason I looked at that, and for some reason in my head I thought I was misreading it at 1987, but it really is 1987. I thought it was like 1967. I figured, but no. Okay.
No, it's actually 87.
Okay.
Now we're going to completely switch gears.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So we go from a classic Italian horror to Attack of the Killer Tomatoes from 1978. Now I vaguely remember seeing this movie probably on HBO or something, or clips of it, and it terrifying me at some level, because I have not seen this movie since I was a little kid, but I remember scenes from it that scared me half to death. I don't know why. Now obviously today it would be so cheesy.
Now it's laughable, the effects of it. And I remember though the coolest release of this I saw, it was a videotape. And it was like some special edition, and it came with a packet of tomato seeds on it to, I guess, plant your own tomatoes. And I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. I bought it, and I don't know what happened to it in the grand scheme of things. God knows, in some box in my storage thing, there's a package of tomato seeds, I guess, but I know I have it somewhere.
This one's by MVD Visual, directed by John DeBello. Starring David Miller, George Wilson, no relation, Sharon Taylor.
I was going to say, look, Tim.
A group of scientists band together to save the world from mutated killer tomatoes. Now, one thing I did want to point out is I don't know why this movie triggered this memory, but I had an Atari 2600 game, and it was called Revenge of the Beefsteak Tomatoes.
I totally remember that. And it kind of...
You remember that?
Yes, and it had like a little song, just like the movie did with it.
Yeah, but it's not officially licensed part of the movie, but it does say 20th Century Fox on the cartridge, like it was a 20th Century Fox released game, but I don't think it's necessarily tied directly to this movie.
Well, back then, remember how loose rights were? It was so weird how you could you could literally rip off another game to the core of it, as long as you change one little thing about it. Like remember, like Odyssey 2 had Casey Munchkin, which was basically Pac-Man. It was all they had, and it was so many things were so identical. And remember, that was when you could actually get video game systems from Sears that mimicked Atari and a television, and they play the game.
Yeah, there was like no licensing rights whatsoever. There was all these knockoff, crazy, like underground games.
Yeah, remember ColecoVision came out with a device that could convert it so you could play Atari 2600s on the ColecoVision, which I had, and that basically was not, Atari never licensed it and allowed it. But there was no way, but the way the laws were at that time, they couldn't stop it. I mean, I think they made an attempt, but it didn't matter because it was released and it was sold. And I think in hindsight, they probably realized, well, what's the difference if they're still buying Atari games? They want to pay Atari games and play it that way. Yeah, we may not sell the systems, but we're going to be. But, at that point, the systems were getting phased out to 2600s anyway, and they were moving to the 7800s, I think. So
yeah, it was a crazy time because it was all new.
Yeah,
I mean that was a new thing. But yeah, the Revenge of the Beefsteak Tomatoes game, where you had this little syringe, you would float around the syringe and you would suck up these colored bricks, and then you would shoot them down and make a wall, because there was these tomato plants that were shooting seeds up at you from the bottom of the screen. So you were building this wall to like protect yourself from the tomato seeds, and all the while there's also these like killer tomatoes that would run across the screen that you'd have to dodge and stuff. I just remember that game was really fun for some reason. I went back and looked at a YouTube video of it, and I was like, oh my god, this looks terrible. But I spent many an hour on that game. I don't know. At the time, that's when you had one game, you played it.
Oh yeah.
For months,
like Adventure for Atari and Yar's Revenge. I mean, you literally play the same thing over and over. Oh my god, Pitfall! Yeah, Pitfall absolutely was I think probably the game that I spent on Atari the most. When I got that thing, I just would not, and like because and I kept like, I don't think I ever got to the end. I think it was famous for having 256 different screens, and I remember I would count. I think the closest I ever got was through 200 of them. And I still remember, like, at one point, going a little off topic, I still remember that I would get to the point where, you know, remember how you usually just be swinging on the rope and you know, that little, but then you'd get to the one where there were just the 3 alligator heads, but no rope. And you had to hop on their eyeball
Our
type
eyes,
of thing.
yeah.
And I remember, like, the first time I did it, I couldn't figure out how to do it, so I decided to start the game over and go the other way. But I ended up getting to that way much faster. Remember, if you went the other way, everything would be reversed. Like, the holes would open up reversed sometimes. So you, so it really was easier if you went a certain way. So yeah, so that game was definitely an event. But it's funny, too, about the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Recently, I don't know if you got it as far as North Carolina, but I know somewhat in our area, there's been a recent outbreak of listeria in romaine lettuce. So apparently just salad kills people, so be careful.
That's right.
So,
yeah, stop being healthy.
Exactly.
Kills.
Better ways. Go eat a burger.
Well, this one has a 4K restoration, an audio commentary, deleted scenes, and 6 featurettes and a collectible poster. It might be worth it.
Yeah, actually, that I gotta tell you, that's a really great set for that movie.
for that movie, yeah. I had a couple of, these are just 4K remasters, so I did not go into the whole synopsis, and that, of course, is Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane. Those are getting 4K
Yeah,
re-releases.
well, it's probably to promote, because I think the new one's coming out this summer in the Cloverfield series.
Yeah, they usually do that. I've enjoyed those. Those are not ones that I'm, like, completely obsessed. Like, I enjoy them, but they're not ones I want to go back and rewatch.
Yeah, although the first one I absolutely loved and used to watch it a lot when I first got it again. Just something about it, and it's funny because it had T.J. Miller in it, like, you know, and that was before I think really he was anything big, and it's so funny because you just get little, like, quirks of what he is like, you know, like before he became like that T.J. Miller total character that he is now. It was like just little bits of him in it. It was great. I actually loved the first one, and I was kind of hoping the second one was you know, had, like, you know, obviously there's a loose tie into it. I was kind of hoping they do a true sequel to the. Because I heard because I heard there was an original idea for the second one. Was going to be the first movie just shot from a different perspective of someone else going through the city. And I just love monster movies to begin with, especially when monsters are giant and huge like that. And the fact that they did it in a found footage style, and the fact that it was like such a secret release and you didn't know it was like.
Yeah,
that was cool. Marketed perfectly and
I mean, the second one was. It was great, and I love John Goodman in it. It was probably the best work he's ever done.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But it was too intense. I mean, that's the thing. That's why I don't want to go watch that movie again. Like, it was too much. It was too mentally taxing to go through that movie one time. I was kind of done with it. Not that I didn't enjoy it. I loved it, but it was just too mentally taxing.
It's heavy. It's a heavy movie. Yeah, it's not one you can watch. Like the first one, I think you can watch over and over again.
Yeah, it's a fun monster movie. The second one's more of a psychological one. It's very claustrophobic, and
it's harder to rewatch. Yeah, it's definitely harder to rewatch, and that's no means disparaging the movie at all. It's great.
I think it's a credit to the movie that it's that intense. Yeah. The next one up, I've heard this one buzzed about, but I don't know much about it. It's The Killing of a Sacred Deer. That's from last year. Released by Lionsgate, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos.
That's got to be one of the coolest names in this Discmemberment.
But starring Nicole Kidman and Alicia Silverstone. I didn't know she was still doing anything. And Barry Keoghan, I guess. And the synopsis is: Stephen, a charismatic surgeon, is forced to make an unthinkable sacrifice after his life starts to fall apart when the behavior of a teenage boy he has taken under his wing turns sinister.
Interesting.
So. This only has a lot of Lionsgate releases, just has a featurette. Nothing to speak of in terms of features. So
yeah,
I don't know. It'd be worth a rental. Yeah. I guess. The next one up is Jigsaw, which is also being released in a 4K version. This, of course, is the latest entry in the Saw franchise, which I spoke about.
That's the one we forgot to mention in our. When we were talking about the one we had planned for our summer vacation, I think Saw we left out.
Yeah, Saw, yep. That's another heavy franchise.
Yeah.
That's a lot of films. Released again by Lionsgate, which means you get a commentary with this one and a featurette. Directed by Michael and Peter Spierig, starring Matt Passmore, Tobin Bell, Callum Keith Rennie. Bodies are turning up around the city, each having met a uniquely gruesome demise. As the investigation proceeds, evidence points to one suspect, John Kramer, the man known as Jigsaw, who has been dead for 10 years. Like I said, this one, I was disappointed in this one. I thought it was just another run-of-the-mill Saw movie. So, yeah, I was kind of hoping of that reboot that would just really invigorate the franchise, and it turned out to be just basically this could have been released 10 years ago and fit right in with the rest of the series. To me, it did not add anything new or interesting to the franchise.
So, in what Tim is saying is, I guess Jigsaw didn't cut it.
Well, speaking of bad puns, here's one. Disc title, Dance, D-A-N-C-E, Macabre.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Which, when I was little, I used to pronounce that macabre. Because I thought it was like macrame.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought it was macabre.
Or macabre.
It's not.
You never know.
Or macabre, yeah. I actually don't know how you literally...
I think it's macabre, right? That's the real way to say it, right? If you want to say it like all
I've
fancy.
I've heard people say macabre, and I've heard people say macabre.
Yeah. I guess look for the person that says it with their pinky in the air as they sip tea.
We ain't fancy down here in the South, Brian. I just say it however I want.
Yeah.
All right. This one's interesting in that it has Robert Englund, who I found out is coming to Mad Monster Party in Charlotte, which means he is going to be close. I still haven't made my mind up whether I'm going or not. I know it's a sacrilege, but I got to save some money.
Well, yeah, no, and then I'm like torn between. I gotta there's that great Monster Mania convention with all the Jasons at it and John Carpenter, and it's
yeah.
There's a
too many horror conventions.
Yeah.
Some really good ones this year.
And John Carpenter's 80. I made a mistake. I think I told you he was 100. He's 80.
Oh, okay.
But
that's still still up there.
Yeah. But it's John Carpenter, so you know.
Yeah, I mean you got how can you pass that up?
Yeah, that'll be tough.
Yeah, this one is from 1992. It's a Shout Factory release, directed by Graydon Clark. Let me tell you, the IMDb score for this one was not kind. It was in the under 3.
Well, based on your just the synopsis here, if Robert Englund plays the dance instructor, I could see why.
Yeah. Anyway, Robert Englund, Michelle Zeitlin, Mariana Moen, a dance instructor. The beer's getting to me.
Uh-oh.
That's what that mad off will do to you.
Because you didn't get your coffee like you're supposed to.
Yeah, that's right. I was told there would be coffee, Olivia.
She's probably like, what, Tim?
A dance instructor brings his dance troupe to Russia for training. What his dancers don't know, however, is that he has a dual personality, and his hidden personality is Freddy Krueger.
I know. Wouldn't that be great if he did that?
He's actually a serial killer. Just a regular serial killer.
You're a little light on your feet.
Oh, this one could go on all day. With this,
the jokes write themselves.
Yeah, for this one, Robert Englund as a dance instructor. I don't know.
Oh my god.
Oh boy.
All right, moving right along. The next one up, actually our last one for this week is The Twilight People from 1972. I like this one. I like this one. This is one that I could dig. It goes into my 70s horror thing.
It does. And it's the year of my birth. See, remember you had a lot from 74. This one's from my birth year, 72.
72. All right, this was released by VCI, directed by Eddie Romero. He was also in Welcome Back, Kotter.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it's a Welcome Back, Kotter themed week. Apparently, in Discmemberment.
Starring John Ashley, Pat Woodell, Jan Merlin, a kidnapped diver.
What? Wait a minute.
How do you kidnap a diver?
Yeah.
That's tough. All right. A kidnapped diver is taken to an island inhabited by a mad scientist and his half-animal, half-human creations. I wonder if this was loosely based on the island of Dr.
I was just going to say that. I was like, that's what I'm thinking of. Was there any kidnapped divers in that? I don't know. Yeah,
that's funny. Maybe that's where the people from Open Water went.
Yeah, or the what's the other one? The Mandy Moore one, right? 47. Yeah.
Anyway, this one is remastered, has a commentary, an interview, and a trailer. So I'm gonna look that one up. That sounds interesting. I've never heard of that one. Twilight.
No, I didn't either. Right? Yeah, I gotta say. I mean, I guess that's the ones with it's the group, right? With the one's a construction worker, one's the Indian chief, one's no, that's the village people. Sorry. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Little off. Okay. No, we're not talking about Can't Stop the Music with the starring the Village People and Steve Guttenberg. Okay.
Now you've got me seeing them doing the YWCA, or YMCA, but there's a guy at the end in a full scuba outfit.
Oh, Another Kickstarter. There you go. Look at that. We're reinventing the Village People live on.
He's trying to do the letters with flippers on, and it's not working.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to have like a different thing because the A won't be able to be spelled with the scuba gear, so we'll have to change the whole dynamic.
Oh, unfortunately, no theatrical releases this week, except for Paddington 2, if you count that as horror.
It could be, depending on how good it is.
I don't know. It's got the 4th ever 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really?
Yeah, my kids went and saw it. They loved it.
Oh, okay.
Well, I actually enjoyed the first Paddington. It was really good, and now we're way off topic. But
yeah. So
for kids' movies, those are great. So.
Well, I mean, when you talk about Paddington, you can't bear not to talk about it. Sorry. Okay, moving on. All right. Now let's go into the perfect segue.
You haven't been fired yet this year, so
I know that's true. I needed to start.
Overdue.
Yeah, I was one episode in. I mean, that's crazy that I haven't been close yet.
Oh, anyway, so this week's feature is, of course, Terror Train, which is one of our poll selections for a New Year's movie because it actually does take place on New Year's.
Yes.
This one is from 1980. It was directed by Roger Spottiswoode, starring Ben Johnson, Jamie Lee Curtis, David Copperfield, and Hart Bochner.
It's so funny when I was a kid, David Copperfield, and then I heard that there was an actual book called David Copperfield. I thought it was the same.
Yes, I did too. And
it's funny too because one of the best lines in the Twilight Zone, in my favorite episode of the Twilight Zone, which is the Time Enough at Last, the Burgess Meredith one.
Oh yeah,
I love that when he's trying to get to his telling everybody because he's reading that book and he's like, "Have you ever read David Copperfield?" And he does that whole thing and he's like, and he goes to "Oh, it's a wonderful book and there's the evil villain named Murdstone. Isn't that a villain's name, Murdstone?" So yeah, so I cannot as soon as I saw David Copperfield appear, flooding back to that episode. Which it was so loosely related in no way whatsoever. Okay, so, but sorry. So there's my little Burgess Meredith impersonation.
Well, we were so low on impersonations this year. We got to step up the pace.
Well, we did have Burgess Meredith, the Rocky Burgess Meredith. Remember, he appeared on season 1.
Oh, that's right. Oh yeah,
Burgess Meredith because it was in the Manitou. So episode, what was that, 2?
That's right.
Wow,
oh yeah, episode 2.
Look at that, way back. Episode 2, he appears again. Look at that.
I'm still terrified to go listen to those early episodes. I'm utterly terrified.
Manitou,
I won't do it.
Though, not. That one will be good. That one was great. But
that one was good.
But think of that. Burgess Meredith appears in only episode 2 of every season, so he can never come back again until the end, until next season 3, episode 2.
He's off limits.
Yeah.
Okay, so the synopsis for this one is a masked killer targets 6 college kids responsible for a prank gone wrong 3 years earlier, and who are currently throwing a large New Year's Eve costume party aboard a moving train. Finally, Olivia has brought me my coffee.
Hey, hello,
dearest. Dearest. Oh my gracious.
Did you tell her that she made an appearance on the show by not bringing the coffee at first?
She finally brought me. I was told there would be coffee. It's cold in here, darling.
I can hear.
I'm gonna be divorced.
I can hear the look Olivia just gave you.
Oh yeah, she just gave me the look. Anyway. So, Terror Train. So I watched the extra features for this one, which are really interesting because Roger Spottiswoode goes into basically the creation of this movie, and I'm not going to give too much away about it because it plays into our trivia question.
Oh yeah, you can't. Yeah,
but his idea for this movie to the start of principal filming was only 4 months. So basically, he came up with this idea. He fast-tracked it. They had a script pounded out. They had everything in place, and they were recording within 4 months. So he says one of the quickest movies he's ever done.
Yeah, it looked like, based on, and I read that actually in just some research. It even said that. So it's like a pretty well-known fact that this movie went, and if you think about it too, Jamie Lee Curtis pretty much at that point, basically within 2-year time, had been in 4 horror movies. So basically she was like full-on Scream Queen by the time this came out, and this was, a lot of people think that this was like, this was early on in terms of that, and it was technically, I think, her fourth film, right? Because I think she did the Fog before this, Prom Night, and Halloween.
Yeah, and I remember in the features he was talking about how lucky they thought they were to get Jamie Lee Curtis because she was a big star at this point.
Yeah.
A horror star at least. She was definitely an up and comer, so they were thrilled to get her in this movie. But this is just an interesting movie. So it starts off, and I'm not going to go scene by scene. We'll just kind of give you an overview, but it starts off with a prank gone wrong. So you basically, it's a medical school. These medical students decide to trick kind of the typical virgin nerd guy into basically making him believe he's going to have sex with this girl.
Jamie Lee Curtis, no less.
Jamie Lee Curtis, no less. Yep, that's a good point.
Which at that time, who wouldn't fall for that, right? And go,
really. But they instead they trick him and put basically a dead corpse in the bed. So he kind of comes in and discovers this dead corpse instead of Jamie Lee Curtis.
And for some reason, turns him into spiling around like he's in like some kind of.
That was a weird scene.
Doing a ribbon dance. What is that? Why was he spinning?
He gets caught in there's like some kind of like mosquito drapery netting over the bed that he gets caught in. But so basically, the point of the intro is to kind of set up the potential reason for the killer's murderous rampage. So you have this guy that was just destroyed by this terrible prank, which Jamie Lee Curtis feels terrible about, by the way.
Right.
She's not sadistic.
Yeah, like you could tell she feels instantly bad, like during it almost, that she's...
Yeah, she didn't even want to do it.
Yeah, she didn't want to do it, and she didn't think it was going to be anything. I don't think she realized the extent of what they were going to do.
So anyway, 3 years later, everybody's graduating, and so they decide to take... which to me sounds like one of the coolest New Year's ideas ever. They decide to take this train, a costume party on a train for New Year's. How cool does that sound? No,
it looked awesome. And I will say though, I don't know where all these college students got this kind of loot to rent an entire train out like this, complete with one of the number one musicians in the world on it, David Copperfield.
Also, was unclear as like where does the train go to? Like, what do you do when you get off the train? Like, do you have to like hitchhike?
Well,
back,
I know.
Or do you take another train back the next day?
Well, I mean,
how does that work?
They were calling it an excursion train, so usually I assumed it was going to make a circuitous route.
Okay,
that's what I assumed.
kind of like a party boat.
Yeah, that's how I took it. I could be completely wrong. It could be one of those things where they're like, well, that's not the plot of the movie, so stop asking. It could be just one of those things. I mean, of course, though, that's where mine went too. I do think of that. I'm like, okay, so what are they just renting this train to go in a circle?
It's like one of those trains that goes around the Christmas tree. It just goes in a big circle.
Yeah, like I don't know if you ever heard of the Strasburg Railroad in Pennsylvania, but you can take a trip and it's a long, like big, like I think it's a couple of hours. And you can have lunch on the train. It's basically a 2-hour loop. Takes you. So.
Yeah. Well, this thing was cool because the train used in the movies was an actual steam train.
Which, yeah, you can visit it, actually. They said one of the cars is still on display, I think, in Arizona, I read. So you can actually get on board. You can, I think, actually tour the exact train car. Well, I don't know if they say, like, this is the one used in Terror Train, because I think the actual train car itself was some sort of historical train to begin with.
Yeah, in fact, in the features, the director was talking about how they had to get, like, this 80-year-old conductor who originally drove that train to come in and get the train moved to the set because they didn't have people who knew how to run this thing.
That's funny, yeah. But I'll tell you, it pays off because at no time do you feel like they just took a train, they built a train car set, or they just and it's basically most of the time it's literally in a giant warehouse. And they're just rocking the train, but you don't get that feel because of the authenticity of the train car.
Right, yeah, they filmed this completely on an actual train. So they said, when they were doing shots and reverse shots, they basically had to take shots from one angle, completely break down everything, hope that the continuity matched up, and shoot the shots from the reverse angle because they didn't have enough room to move the cameras around.
Yeah, and I heard they actually built like for dolly shots, they had to build like thinner they actually had to do a lot of and it actually put them behind a few days. I saw it too, and there was actually the point of where the producers there was a dispute between the producer and the director where they were I guess 5 days behind in shooting on this because of all these pitfalls I guess they had. So the guy said just take four pages out of the script. And the director was having none of that. So apparently, which must have been expensive at the time. They said he finally relented, the producer, and they shelled out a check for $25,000. They said to complete the rest of the movie in terms of to cover the overages of time.
Yeah, but you can really tell. I mean, it really looks fantastic. It looks authentic. And people are crowded into these rooms, and it really does feel claustrophobic, which is like a perfect setting for a horror movie.
I mean, think about it. You get a magic stage basically on this train. You got a band playing on this thing. It's
crazy.
Full bar. Like the bar car is like really like packed with a bar on it and stuff. Yeah.
Now, I know we kind of play fast and loose with spoilers on Civil Gore, depending on the movie. We try to stay away from spoilers in newer movies, but we kind of, if they're beyond a certain age, we don't really care. This one I don't really want to spoil, because if you haven't seen this one, it actually does have a really good twist to it.
Right.
So I'm not going to spoil it. Suffice it to say that the killer makes it onto the train, as you would expect.
Right.
I don't think that's a spoiler to tell you that.
Yeah, I think you can figure that one
what's
out.
interesting is that because this is a costume party, you don't know who's who. You don't know who's behind these masks. So you do have a few suspects. Of course, you got the guy in the Groucho mask.
Right.
Which you called the...
the Gene Shalit.
The Gene Shalit mask. It's actually a Groucho mask. You have a guy in a lizard costume, full lizard costume. Who else did you have? You had a guy as a bird. You had a witch,
and the old man or something, right? Or was that the witch? I can't remember.
That might have been the witch.
Oh yeah,
then you had one was a monk, I think. And during this all, what's really crazy is during this whole movie, there's a magician performing on the train.
David Copperfield.
Actually, David Copperfield,
Yes.
The real David Copperfield. He's young as he can be, and I just remember that. Now, the director said the only reason David Copperfield was in this movie is because he liked magic.
Yeah.
There was no original magician in the script or part of the script. He just threw him in there because he likes magic and he wanted to see some magic tricks.
Yeah, and he did those real tricks. He said, I saw a thing, David Copperfield said he had to be very careful with his tricks because the film shows so much that he literally had to almost tweak his tricks slightly to because he said basically what you see on film is what all the extras and everybody saw. So he basically did perform these magic tricks in front of everybody live like that for the show, and had to be extra careful because he didn't want the film to inadvertently pick up something that would spoil the trick.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've always been a huge David Copperfield fan.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We grew up with him though. That was like our David Blaine at the time. There was he would have full on specials on TV, and he'd always be on those whatever the prime time ensemble shows. He'd have an appearance and do a trick.
Yeah, I remember it was him and Doug Henning.
Doug Henning, that's right. Yeah,
was a great one.
Remember Martin Short doing Doug Henning? Yeah. That was classic.
That was hilarious. Yeah. Doug Henning was such a character, though.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, with his teeth and everything. But anyway, the reason I loved magic so much was because my granddad would literally take me to every magic show that came to town. It did not matter what magic show came. And that for some reason, I remember there was a lot of them back when I was growing up. I don't think you see that kind of thing these days. But
no, and it's funny you said that because they used to be. We used to go to this restaurant. There's a Beefsteak Charlie's. I don't know if they had those in Carolina, but it was like a chain steakhouse here. They were famous for their all-you-can-eat shrimp, and actually an episode of the Goldbergs just featured it on it, and it brought all this nostalgia back. And the one we used to go to actually had a magician on certain nights come through and do tricks while you dined. Like he'd come to your table and do tricks and everything. And I think my mom she hired him from one of my birthday parties as a kid. It was Michael the Magician.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And it's funny, we know another Michael the Magician, our good friend Michael Collins, who's an excellent magician actually. And so it's funny you said that. Yeah.
Well, I think all kind of nerdy people got into magic at some point or another in their lives.
That's a movie we have to do, by the way. Magic with
oh my God, yeah, that's a great one.
With Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, that would be great. We need to do that one with a double feature with Dead Silence.
Yes.
Two evil ventriloquist movies. That would be great. No, but I was always into magic growing up. I got largely through my granddad. I remember he took me to, like, he would take me to magic shops and buy me like these really nice, expensive magic books, which I still have, that are like really high caliber. You know, not the stuff you would buy off the shelf. I mean, these are like actual, have to go to a magic shop to buy them kind of books. And then I remember one time, I think one of the last magic shows I went to with him, Houdini's niece was there.
Oh, wow.
And she was, gosh, an elderly woman even at that time when I was a child. And I still have an autographed copy of her, and the photo is of her when she was 3 years old, sitting on Houdini's knee.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she signed and personalized the picture, so that's really cool. I'll have to take a picture of it and maybe put it on Instagram or something. It's really neat.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I know. I've always liked Houdini too. I actually read a book on recently. Actually, I think over the summer I read. It was a little short book because there was Houdini featured on an episode of that show Timeless.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I also got that Houdini movie. I ordered with Adrian Brody. And I love the attraction at the Six Flags parks that they have. Some of them, it's called Houdini's Great Escape. Just like a little one. It's like the whole ride is kind of one of those like little trick illusion type of things where it makes it feel like the room turns upside down. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I used to do reports on Houdini all the time in school. I'm sure the teachers got tired of it because that's all I would do is Houdini book reports. But and speaking of Adrian Brody, which is, again, completely off topic. I'm sorry, we're rambling. He is phenomenal in season 4 of Peaky Blinders, if you haven't seen that.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that show.
Oh my God, that show is so awesome.
I gotta watch that.
Adrian Brody plays an American mafioso in season 4, and it's incredible.
Nice.
So good. So good. All right. Anyway, so back to the magic. Of course, David Copperfield features quite prominently in this movie.
Yeah.
It's funny. He's kind of just always there, hanging around doing magic tricks. But so at any rate, to move the plot along, you have a series of murders, of course, take place on this train. The conductor, I'm trying to remember his name. That was Ben Johnson.
I liked him, actually, his character a lot.
Yeah, he was fantastic in this. You know, and he's kind of bemused at the whole idea of these college students on this train partying, but at the same time, you know, when stuff starts happening, he realizes that he's the only one that's gonna be able to do anything about this.
Yeah,
you know, they're on a train. They don't have access to. I think that they made some excuse for radio doesn't work.
Yeah, there's a big foreshadowing early.
Yeah,
I told these guys to have a radio on this train. What if someone falls off?
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, that cracks me up when Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, this is a minor spoiler, I guess. You know, there's going to be a body count at some point. No, I guess her best friend, is killed, and the conductor's trying to break it to her easily. And she goes, "Oh my God, did she fall off the train?" I'm like, how often does this happen? That this is now mentioned twice in this movie already. You know, it's like you usually don't hear people falling off train. Cruise ships.
I don't know.
Yes,
these kids were pretty drunk.
That's true.
I can kind of see it happening, especially if he's used to these party excursions.
Yeah, but just the way she says, she's like, "Oh my God, did she fall off the train?" And I'm like, I couldn't help but laugh, actually, just the way she said it. So,
but yeah, it's funny, and I mean, for a movie to be this enclosed and this claustrophobic, it's actually very entertaining because, you know, they keep it moving because, you know, they're jumping from car to car and from people to people and couple to couple, so that it never feels like you're just stuck in this one train per se.
No, but it actually feels like you're. I mean, it makes it sound weird, but it kind of feels like you're part of it. Like, you know, whether it was intentional to make you get that feeling that because it feels like as you're going through the train, it feels like you're like literally at the party with them, kind of. You know, it's just because it's like there's so much going on, and there's a lot of scenes that just are almost like that you would almost have. What you'd figure you just only kind of see in the background, but they kind of make it a scene to just kind of always make you feel like that you're part of that party going on.
Well, I think it was a limitation of the camera because it had to always be close up. You know, they always say close up shots build intimacy between the viewer and the actors. I mean, at this point, you didn't have a choice.
Right.
There were no far out shots, so you were always up close with all the actors. So yeah, I can definitely see how that would make you feel like you're part of the action. The thing I alluded to last episode, though, was when you finally do get some to the third act where the killer's maybe not revealed, but the killer is basically stalking the final girl, which in this case is Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, which I mentioned last episode. Man, that there's a really protracted fight between those two, which is really, really good. I thought it was an amazing showdown between the killer and the final girl. That for this time, again, this is 1980. You're still early. This is before a lot of the bigger franchises have really took off. To have such a great showdown between the last two, the final girl and the villain, was pretty cool to me.
Yeah, no, and especially when it's like we've said, she's trapped on the train, and it's not like she has a lot of space to go. And she basically corners herself, but still has to fight her way out, and it's it actually does build a lot of really good tension in there, because you're like, all right, how the hell is she going to get out of this?
Well, I think that's where the confines of the train worked in favor of the movie,
right? Because
you can't just have her run out of a door and across the lawn and across to the neighbor's house like you could in Halloween. You've got her trapped in a room. You can't. There's no way to get her out of it.
Yeah,
you have to figure out some way for her to fight back, and to me that made it a lot more effective than what you see in a lot of other movies these days, where basically the final girl is just one protracted chase scene,
right? Which
is not the case here.
No, this was not. I mean, yes, okay, and you could say it's a bit of a chase because he's going after her, but it's definitely not a chase in the traditional sense. I mean, because you really don't extend past, I think, one train car, possibly the second one. And it all takes place in a really small area, but yet it doesn't feel like it definitely doesn't make it dull. And like you said, I think it works in its favor, because it's like it's really intense, close up in your face sequence.
Yeah, so I won't give any more away because that'd be going too far into spoiler country. So I'll just let you enjoy the ending for yourself.
Yes.
But it has a nice little twist, and to me, this movie is underrated. I feel like it's underrated, and the only reason I say that is I know people consider it a classic. Obviously, it got a Scream Factory release. It's not unknown or anything.
Right.
And of course, starring Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, it's known. But in terms of just, when I was growing up and going through horror and stuff, I'd never heard of this movie. Maybe I'd heard it mentioned, but I had not mentioned it in the same vein as like your Halloweens and your Friday the 13th and your other great 80s slashers.
No, it was definitely below those in terms of notoriety, but definitely not in quality, because I think it holds its own right up there, and I'd put it right up there with them if I was going to put in terms of that time period. I mean, it's just one of those movies that it's almost like if you haven't seen it yet, you need to watch it, or you're kind of doing yourself a disservice if you don't see it.
Yeah, it's one of those. The way I'm trying to describe it is, if I went up to a person and said, "Hey, have you seen Terror Train?" I'm guessing they probably haven't.
Probably.
Whereas
not.
if I go to a person and say, "Have you ever seen Halloween?" They probably have.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's as good as Halloween by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not putting it up at that same level, but I'm saying just from name recognition alone, it's not one of those that you typically hear people mention in the same breath with all the great 80s horror movies, which it's kind of a shame because I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's better than Prom Night, and that's always up there, and
far better. I liked it. This one far better than Prom Night.
And I mean, it's funny. Who I forgot was in there was Vanity. She went by a different name in the credits, but
yeah,
I forgot. I was like, who is that? I'm like, that looks familiar. She looks so familiar. And then when I looked it up, I'm like, oh my god, that's Vanity. That's right. It's like, so it's funny that it and it's funny. She doesn't look like any different than she does. It looks like she's the same age throughout her whole life.
Oh yeah. She's one of those ageless people.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, terrific movie. Definitely pick up the Scream Factory edition. It doesn't have a lot of extras, but I will say the featurettes on it are entertaining and good.
No, and the print is good. And the print quality
is great. Yeah, it looks great. It's a great movie to own. I can see myself rewatching this one over and over.
Oh yeah, it might go into my holiday rotation. We have the certain ones for Christmas, Halloween. I think this might go into my New Year's. Along with
Oh yeah, I think so.
I mean, what else really? I mean, you're gonna put it with. You're not putting it with New Year's Evil.
No, New Year's Evil's kind of dead to me. So yeah, this one would definitely go in my New Year's list. I know Amanda always watches Jaws on New Year's, or that was on our Jaws episode, but
right.
Well, that one doesn't really have anything to do with New Year's. That's just an annual thing. This one might be my annual.
Yeah, I think we may have to make this a A new yearly tradition.
So you had a great beer pairing. I did some preliminary beer pairing work beforehand, but I think yours was way better than what I had come up with.
Yeah, I was kind of looking. There was actually another one from this brewery, but I went with this one because I thought this was definitely more of a, definitely a better name. The other one I think was something Rail something, but this one is called Derailed, and it was by the Erie Brewing Company. It's a black cherry cream ale, but I just like the title Derailed because obviously, Terror Train, Obviously, the train did not go off the track, as far as we know, but definitely their plans were derailed.
Just as an aside, I forgot to mention this earlier. The original name for the movie was Terrible Train.
Yes, it was,
which is awful.
Yeah, thank God, because I think that might have seriously killed the movie.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, thank goodness they changed it to Terror Train.
Yeah, so I actually want to look this beer up. A black cherry cream ale, that sounds good.
That sounds really good. And Erie Brewing Company.
Yes, Erie.
Nice little pun there.
Yep, Erie. So, and that's actually not that, it might be able to get because Erie, Pennsylvania is not that far away.
So the trivia question for last week was a toughie. That was one Brian's evil mind had come up with.
Yeah, it's about time I gave you guys a tough one. We were back after a while, so,
Two actors in the film New Year's Evil, Roz Kelly and Terry Copley, have something in common. What was it?
And no, it was not that they were in New Year's Evil.
No. The answer was they both guest starred on Fantasy Island.
Sorry, guys.
The plane. I used to love Fantasy Island.
Oh, yeah, who didn't love that
Fantasy
one? Yeah, that was a great show.
Yeah, showing our age.
Plus, it had Ricardo Montalban. Come on.
Yeah, come on. He's awesome.
He was Khan, I know,
Khan!
I mean, you get anything he says is funny, so you gotta.
Yeah, he was so suave. Oh my god, who didn't want to go to Fantasy Island?
Right?
That place was awesome.
That's a show that I could I would love to have it. They actually, it's funny though. There was kind of almost one of the Black Mirror episodes, kind of reminded me of Fantasy Island a bit. I'll let you see it, and you can decide which one for yourself if you haven't seen it yet. But it's in season 4. And I'll let you get to that one, and you tell me you'll know right away. I think once you watch it, because I was gonna say that would be an interesting reboot nowadays. I mean, I guess you can kind of Westworld-ish has a twist to it a little bit.
Yeah,
but
see that.
I would love a true Fantasy Island reboot, but definitely a darker version of it because it was so campy, that one, obviously. Yeah. But a cool darker
dark
one.
Fantasy Island.
Yeah,
Another sound like a Kickstarter idea.
I know. I think we got one.
Might be like Horror Island.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So the trivia question for this week. This was kind of a softball. We gave you a hard one last week. We're going to be an easy one this week. This one you could almost guess this one.
Yeah, pretty much.
Even without knowing. What two movies combined were said to inspire the plot to Terror Train?
Yeah, pretty simple. If you could
take a wild guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what this is one of those weeks we have no idea what we're doing next.
Yeah, we haven't. We haven't discussed it. We'll have to get to it because it's January, so it's not really. We don't have a theme to this month per se.
No, we have a pretty good lineup for February, I believe.
Yeah, February we got some good ones because we hit our. I think, but March we hit our 50th episode. We got a good one for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll have to. Tim and I have to have an executive meeting between now and next week, and we'll think of a good one.
So that's good for you guys because you get a surprise.
Right.
Surprise for next week. So as usual, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Leave us a review on iTunes if you're so inclined. Give us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you guys. You can get in touch with us on Gmail, civilgorepodcast@gmail.com, or, of course, all the social platforms that I just mentioned.
Oh, and you know what? When you said that, I want to give a shout-out. We were long overdue shout-out to that guy Don Anelli, who every week he does this great posting he summarizes all the week's horror podcasts and gives a little bit of basically gives a shout out to every podcast, a horror that he knows about, I guess, and tells what they're going to do. And he always mentions us, which is great. So I hope he listens, because thank you so much. Because I sent him a message to thank him, because it's such a great job to do, because especially with so many podcasts out there, it's almost impossible to listen to everyone you want. At least in a timely manner. So if you have limited time and you want to kind of get at least the best of what you can get, he does a great recap, so you can see what each topic is for the week's podcast.
Yeah, and just gives free publicity.
Yeah, I mean, it's
for no questions asked, which it was just awesome of him. So I really appreciate those recaps, and I've found some good stuff through there.
Right,
through his links too. So yeah, that's greatly appreciated. That's really cool. All right, guys. So we're gonna wrap up 42nd episode here, and we'll see you back next week.
Check your tickets because your ticket may be for the Terror Train.
Woo woo.